Let's face it, without brains, our bodies wouldn't know what to do. And more than ever, we let technology do the thinking for us.
Please drive to highlighted route.
Thanks.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what I would do without modern technology. But without me, would a machine be just a hunk of metal? Or are brains, bodies, and machines inextricably linked? I'm Jennifer Pulley.
And I'm Johnny Alonzo. In this episode of NASA 360, we're going to explore the connection between the body, the mind, and machine. From tools we'll use in future space travel, built to think like us, and even look like us.
Two very real applications we need right now, right here on Earth. But first, mind and machine merge in the virtual reality of the International Space Station.
Can you imagine what it'd be like doing a spacewalk? I mean, what goes on through your mind the second you dip out of the craft into the vastness of space? Awe, fear, total amazement? Yeah, definitely all of the above. But how do astronauts prepare for such an experience like that? Follow me. Well, for one thing, they swap stories. But they also pay a visit to this guy, Dave HOMAN, here at the Virtual Reality Lab at Johnson Space Center. How are you?
Good, how you doing?
Good to see you.
Glad to see you.
So, astronauts do some training here, right?
They do their training here. This is a virtual reality facility. We can assemble the actual space station orbiter configuration as it would actually be in space.
Can we give it a test spin?
Sure thing.
Let's go.
Right in there.
Right on. Yeah, that's gonna be me, right? I wish it was in basic black. I'm so gonna throw up.
We just shampooed the carpets last night. This is essentially where the astronauts come to work their protocol and procedures with between EVA crew members and robotic arm operators, so that it becomes like second nature to them. This is a place where they can actually work out those protocols on the ground before they get into space, and so that it's familiar to them, and it's not a surprise when they get on orbit.
You know, I can totally see how this would help astronauts. Thanks, Dave.
Sure thing. You ready to get out?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Look, whether you're aware of it or not, our brain is constantly responding to stimulus. I mean, thanks to our various senses, like our eyes, our ears. You get the picture. But when that stimulus is coming from a machine, does our brain respond the same way? Well, my good friend Jennifer Pulley at NASA Langley Research Center is taking a closer look at planes and pilots. See how they work together. Take flight.
One of the finest examples in history of how humans have used their minds to build machines to take their body places is aviation. Now, the technology aboard planes has come a long way, of course. Cockpits are digital, and they're more automated than ever. But is it possible to have too much of a good thing? Let's find out. This is a 757 cockpit. You have all the head-down information you would typically have. We have something here called a head-up display that I'm going to show you if you'd like. If you'd like to fly, I can show you a new technology we've been working on. Would I like to fly? Would I like to fly? Yes! Stir clutch? Okay, well, I'm going to go ahead and put the sim into operate. You know, this reminds me of like driving a car. You know, same deal. You've got your speedometer on the outside, but I don't have all these instruments on my car. How do pilots not get overwhelmed and take all this in? That is a great question. The testing we do in here is we're looking at the best way to present information to a pilot. We want to do that so he maintains his situational awareness, so you remember there's a mountain out there. You remember which runway you're landing on. 16 right at Reno, not 16 left. And by doing that, we want to increase their situational awareness, but we also want to make sure their mental workload doesn't get so out of hand that it's overwhelming to fly. So what I hear you saying is you're looking at sort of a combination between protocol, aesthetics, what you see, and psychology.
That's exactly right. We're looking at how humans best deal with information, how to best present that to them, and where to put it, and it's everything from visual to controls.
Sounds like it's never a dull moment for the pilot.
Probably not, but you know what? On a long flight, like a long en route flight from, say, Paris to New York, at nighttime, when you really probably want to be sleeping, pilots, they keep all the information there, but they could become complacent. Not bored or anything like that, but there's technologies that you can look at. In fact, Dr. Alan Pope here at NASA Langley has been looking at brainwave technology in simulators to be able to determine when a pilot might be becoming complacent.
Linda, I will be sure to talk to him. Thank you so much for your time.
So welcome. Thank you for coming.
Letting me fly.
You did a great job.
I appreciate that. All right, up next, Johnny Alonzo's down in Houston, Texas, and he's going to be looking at another NASA study designed to help pilots prepare for situations where they need to be 100%, especially when their minds and bodies aren't cooperating.
One very serious hazard for pilots is that moment when your eyes, your body, and the seat of your pants are telling you something completely different than what your plane is telling you. I mean, you can get thrown off, especially when you need to make a crucial decision, like when you're landing. Can we train the mind and body to work together to handle these intense situations? Maybe Dr. Scott Wood could tell us. Come on in. Doctor, how you doing? Hey, good to see you. So, tell me, what do you do here to keep these astronauts cool?
Oh, you know, we're just getting ready to start a study. Why don't we show you in the next room?
Let's go.
Let's go.
So what do we have here?
What we have here is a motion simulator that we've used with pilots and some of our returning astronauts.
Okay.
So it's creating some of the confusing, challenging sensory conditions that pilots experience.
All right.
And what we're really excited about is some of the new sensory aids that we've been looking at. Actually, this has been developed through some research in the Navy. And the point is, sometimes when you're in these challenging situations, it's not that we don't have enough information for the pilot in the displays. Sometimes it's just grabbing their attention, having them pay attention to it. And that's the point of these tactors. So these are small little pager motors. They're right here. And what they do is they vibrate.
So wait, let me clarify something. These are sensors. So, I mean, when it's strapped on the body, if the pilot has to go right, they will feel like a vibration on the right side of their body.
That's correct, yeah. That's their feedback. It's kind of like a tap on the shoulder just to get their attention and let them know what direction they need to correct.
Very cool. And you said you have Julie helping us out today?
Yeah, so Julie's going to wear these and get in our motion simulator.
You're braver than I am, I'll tell you that.
Okay, Julie, now we're going to try that with the tactor feedback.
So what are you having her do, Doc?
We're having her controller position so as the computer moves the chair off axis, she's trying to keep herself centered, similar to a pilot trying to keep their aircraft hovering in the same position.
I am so glad that's not me. Look, don't go anywhere. When NASA 360 returns, we're going to take a closer look at your brain.
Notice that anytime you're thrown off balance, the first thing you want to do is to get some solid footing. Well, your feet know where to go because you know which way is up and you know which way is down. You can do that because of something called the vestibular system. Now that's the system that sends signals from the inner ears to the eyes to the muscles that keep us upright. Most of the time, the vestibular system does its thing without us ever having to consciously think about it. But guess what? In space, in the free fall of microgravity, there is no up and there is no down. And that throws the vestibular system way off. In fact, it makes some people physically ill. It's a little something that folks here at NASA call space motion sickness. But researchers think with a little training, astronauts can actually use their minds to overcome their body's desire to, well, you know.
It's true. Space motion sickness causes problems, but NASA is now working on additional training for astronauts before they fly, and this is where that'll happen. This is DEBORAH Harm, and she's working on ways to prevent space motion sickness. How are you?
Good, how are you?
Good,
Nice
good to
meet
see you. My pleasure. What do you call this thing?
Its official name is DOME, which is an acronym for Device for Orientation and Motion Environments.
Okay.
But most people just think of it as a big virtual reality training system.
Cool.
And we're getting ready to test someone. Would you like to come in and see?
Sure, let's check it out. Okay. And I hope I don't get sick. Wow, wow. This is neat.
Full immersion virtual environment system.
Totally. When does space sickness often occur? On the way to space or throughout the mission?
It doesn't occur throughout the mission. The biggest time for space motion sickness is in the first 24 to 72 hours on orbit, and then again upon return from spaceflight.
Oh,
So, and any time you change the gravity conditions, there's likely to be some motion sickness.
can we fire this up?
Yep, it's ready to go. We just have to show her how to use the space ball, and she can fly through the station.
Well, while you're showing her, I'm walking out. You guys do what you gotta do. Deborah, that was awesome. Thank you so much for everything.
You're welcome. It was my pleasure.
Talk about mind over matter. Jennifer, you're up.
Now, we all know that when our minds begin to wander, we are a lot slower to respond to things. And really, that's not good if you're a pilot. But what makes that happen? Our friend, Dr. Alan Pope. Hi, Dr. Pope.
Hi.
He decided to actually take a closer look into what was going on in the brains of those pilots as their minds were beginning to wander, right?
That's right. We used an electroencephalogram, or EEG, to study the pilot's brainwaves while they were interacting with flight deck technology.
What is a brainwave? I mean, I know I have them going on. I don't think I've ever seen one before.
Well, they look like waves. There are large waves and small waves. And we studied 3 different kinds of brainwaves: alpha waves, beta waves, and theta waves. And they differ from each other by their size, how large the valleys and hills are, and how spread apart they are.
Now, the system that you used in your study to study the pilot's brainwaves, a little different than an EEG. Tell me about it.
We started using a closed loop system. And it's closed loop because the pilot's brainwaves are connected to the simulator.
Sounds like the pilots were actually controlling the simulator, like a mind control video game?
It's sort of like that, it is. And we realized that that kind of setup was very much like a neurofeedback system that's used to train to treat ADHD.
Well, what did you find?
Well, that's where this guy comes in, Dr. Dominic Greco. His company has an exclusive license with NASA to produce this video game technology.
And he's here.
He's here.
Oh, let's go meet him.
Hi, Dominic. How you doing?
Good, Alan.
This is Dr. Greco, the founder of Smart Brain Technologies.
So nice to meet you.
Pleasure meeting you, Jen.
This is amazing, a video game that's controlled by your brain.
It's controlled by your brain just like the work Dr. Pope is doing with the flight simulators. But instead of using a flight simulator, we're using real PlayStation and Xbox video games.
Can I try it?
Let's get going. You're getting lots of feedback from your brain activity.
Yeah, this vibration that I feel. What is that?
Vibration is saying that you're becoming a bit too anxious and you need to relax and calm down.
Now, why does this help kids with ADHD? And I'm thinking I might have ADHD, Dr. Greco.
As we measure that activity, we feed it through the neurofeedback device and it sends a signal to the game controller.
Okay.
So the only way you can be competitive in the game and do a good job is by producing the right kind of brain activity.
Oh, see, that's cool. Finish! I won! I don't know about that, but God, this was my brain on technology. How cool is that? What's next? I'm sure there's something coming up.
Well, actually, I have some students right over here working on some stuff. So get unhooked and let's go.
All right. Help. Help.
Here's some of my students who are working on the next generation of neurofeedback video game with an educational component. Chase, what's going on here?
Well, Dr. Pope, as you know, education and video games have really, for the longest time, been 2 separate realms. So our project here is really to try and incorporate them and add a bit of fun into learning. The idea is to reward students if they keep more engaged. If you stay engaged enough, then you will get a bonus later in the game during the interactive phase.
Thanks for being with us today, guys. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay, guys, earlier in the show, we learned how our minds and machines work together to help prepare pilots for flight. Well, what about after they return to Earth? Did you know that some astronauts, when they return to Earth, have problem with their locomotion? To find out what that means and how NASA's fixing it, Johnny Alonzo's on the scene.
Okay, so we know our vestibular system is what keeps us upright and balanced here on Earth. And that going into space completely throws it out of whack. But did you know that when you return from space, your vestibular system stays out of whack for up to a few weeks? Well, we can't have astronauts stumbling all over the place. So guys like Dr. Jacob Bloomberg here have devised training techniques to help astronauts readjust to Earth. How you doing, Doc?
How are you?
Good to see you. Why do astronauts have such a hard time readapting to Earth?
Well, the human brain is remarkably adaptable and adapts to the zero-G environment of space. The downside of that is when you return back to Earth, you need to readapt to the Earth environment. And that can even take up to several weeks at a time.
Wow. So, Doctor, tell me exactly what's going on here.
Well, during this training, subjects walk here on the treadmill, and while they're walking on the treadmill, you can see that the visual scene moves up and down, and also the walking surface moves up and down too. And what this provides is a balanced challenge while you're walking. And this trains the brain now to become more adaptable to deal with some of these challenges. So you get better at dealing with it over time.
This is great for astronauts. What about Earth applications?
Well, falling is a real big risk factor for older adults, and we've been using some of this training to train older subjects to become more adaptable. So we think that'll prevent them from falling in the future. So we see some really widespread applications for this type of training.
Well, Doctor, this is giving my brain and body a workout. Thank you for everything.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Listen, stay tuned because when NASA 360 returns, we're going to take everything you've learned full circle with a look at robotics and bionics.